Hello members, this is group 7. We are going to discuss about Pan-Africanism, and these are the members that are going to present. I, Masiga Faith, Sharon Kibor, Jai Chemeli, and Maureen Jeruto. For me, I'm going to give a brief introduction about the topic. I'm going to talk about a brief introduction about the topic Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism, the idea that people of Africa descend have common interests and should be unified. Historically, Pan-Africanism has often taken the shape of a political and cultural movement. There are many varieties of Pan-Africanism. In its narrowed political manifestation, Pan-Africanists envision a unified African nation where all people of Africa diaspora can live. Africa diaspora refers to the long-term historical process by which people of Africa descent have been scattered from their ancestral homelands to other parts of the world. In a more general term, you can define Pan-Africanism as the sentiment that people of Africa descent have a great deal in common, a fact that deserves notice and even celebrations.
This is the brief summary of the origin of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanist ideas first began to circulate in the mid-19th centuries in the United States. It was led by Africans from Western Hemisphere, and the most important Pan-Africanists were Martin Delany and Alexander Crummell, both African Americans, and Edward a West Indian. Those early voices for Pan-Africanism emphasized the commonalities between Africans and Black people in the United States. Delany believed that Black people could not prosper alongside whites, advocated the idea that African Americans should separate from the United States and establish their own nation. Crummell and Blyden, both contemporaries of Delany, thought that Africa was the best place for that new nation. Motivated by Christian missionary, the two believed that Africans in the New World should return to their homelands and convert and civilize their inhabitants there. Although the ideas of Delany, Crummell, and Blyden are important, the true father of modern Pan-Africanism was the influential thinker Du Bois. Throughout his long career, Du Bois was a consistent advocate for the study of African history and culture. In the early 20th century, was the most prominent among the few scholars who studied Africa. In his statement of the 20th century, is the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. Was met with Pan-Africanist sentiments in mind. For Du Bois, the problem of the color line was not confined merely to the United States and its Negro problem. During those years, it was common for many in the United States to refer to the problem of African American social status as the Negro problem. Du Bois' famous statement was made with the clear knowledge that many Africans living on the African continent suffered under the yoke of European colonial rule.
I'm going to take you through the objectives of the Pan-African movement. First, it was to unite all the people of African origin in the struggle for emancipation from social discrimination and colonial rule. Second, it was to challenge the ideology of white supremacy on which European colonization was based. Third, to improve the African living conditions in the diaspora in the African continent. Fourth, to secure democratic rights for all African people, for example, the right to vote. Fifth, to restore the dignity of the Black people and liberate them from the bondage of slavery. And lastly, to create the forum through which protest against European colonization and racial discrimination could be changed.
Hello, I'm going to take you through the Pan-African Congress movement. During the 20th century, advocates of Pan-Africanism made efforts to institutionalize their ideas and to create formal organizations to complement the work of Pan-Africanist intellectuals. The first meeting designed to bring together peoples of African descent for the purpose of discussing Pan-Africanist ideas took place in London in 1900. The organizer was Henry Sylvester Williams, a native of Trinidad. The meeting was attended by several prominent blacks from Africa, Great Britain, the West Indies, and the United States. Du Bois was perhaps the most prominent member of US delegation. The first formal Pan-African Congress took place in 1919 in Paris and was called by Du Bois. That meeting was followed by a second Pan-African Congress 2 years later, which convened in 3 sessions in London, Brussels, and Paris. The most important results of the Second Pan-African Congress was the issuance of a declaration that criticized European colonial domination in Africa and lamented the unequal state of relations between white and black races, calling for a fairer distribution of world's resources. The declaration also challenged the rest of the world to either create conditions of equality in the places where people of African descent live or recognize the rights of a great African state founded in peace and goodwill.
I'm going to talk about some achievement of Pan-Africanism. The idea of Pan-African movement were used by nationalists in Africa to attain self-determination. Africans formed political parties like UPC in Uganda that were used to struggle for their independence. The second achievement is the Pan-African movement achieved its objective of decolonizing Africa by the year 1990, and almost all African countries had been granted independence, including Namibia, in the year 1990. The third achievement is the movement succeeded in fostering unity between Africans in Africa and the Negroes in diaspora. The fourth achievement is the Pan-African movement has managed to uplift the dignity and social pride of African people all over the world. The last achievement is Marcus Garvey formed the Back to African movement, which made blacks in America, Asia, Jamaica to become aware of their African origin. From then on, they started giving practical help to Negro black movements in Africa and America. For example, they supported the WASU, which is called West African Student Union. I'll take you through the challenges encountered by the Pan-African movement. First, Many European groups fought the activities of the Pan-Africanists. For example, Marcus Garvey was arrested, tried, and convicted of fraud. It was difficult for the Africans to participate in African affairs since majority of Africans were still under colonialism. Thirdly, due to lack of economic empowerment and lack of education, many of the Pan-African projects did not succeed. Fourth, illiteracy and ignorance among some people of African origin hindered them from offering constructive support. And lastly, the movement was restricted to the African continent after independence in 1960s. This is what we found in the research of the Pan-African movement, and this is the end of presentation of Group 7.